Yeah.
Okay, 4 o'clock on January 10th, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call. Dave?
Here.
Robert? Here. Brent? Here. I don't see Carol. John? Here. Norm, I'm present. Bill? Present. Don't see Christine. Todd? Here. Pete? Here. And Tracy? Here. Okay. So the first item would be an approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Need to vote on the approval, did we, Tim?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, approval of financial report and future account discussions from Tim.
Yeah, since your last meeting, we've had one expenditure, $1,290 to Brighton Analytical Lab. That brings the running balance to $32,560. At the last council meeting, council discussed and gave a thumbs up to creating a separate checking account at an institution other than Isabella Bank. So that's who we bank with, and that's who the association bank with. That would be the repository for the dredging project fund. So it would be separate from our regular, checking account. So it would be a clear own financial statements. There's no, trying to break it out, that kind of stuff. So we looked at Isabella Community Credit Union, Lake Trust, and Mercantile Bank actually reached out to me today about it as well. So any one of those three, I think Mercantile is the one that probably wants it more than the others. So if they can do it with no fee and maybe some interest in whatever's in there, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
As I recall, that's what Isabella Bank, or not Isabella.
Isabella Community Credit Union is no fee, but I don't think they have interest.
Okay.
And interest is not a huge thing, but when I initially looked at Mercantile Bank, you had to maintain a running average balance of 35,000, I think, to have your $6 a month account fee waived. And it's like, there will be times where we're probably not gonna maintain that balance because we're not gonna sit on cash to hold it and, do it. So,
Recycled yearly.
yeah, and once I explained that to them, I said, we gotta go on a lower interest rate to make that happen. I think that's something we'd be open to, but, yeah, that's what we've got for that. So we'll get looking to get that opened up soon. I have talked with our bond counsel, finance attorney for the, okay to do an interfund loan. He's okay with it. We do not have to charge interest. It would be my recommendation when it goes to council that we don't charge interest. And that's based solely on the optics of it, that I really am cautious. I don't want the appearance that our general fund is going to be profiting on a loan to this project. It will create, for accounting purposes, what's known as a deficit in that fund, which is something that we will have a CR on our audit about. We've already talked to our auditors about it. They say it's not a big deal. It's you submit it to treasuries because you have to do an elimination plan if you have a deficit. So, this was just a loan in advance of bond proceeds or millage proceeds. It was repaid. It's done. They'll sign off and it's fine. But
Is there something the village rightfully should be paid back for? You have internal processes to do that. Whether it's you, Jessica, or the auditing firm or whatever. I don't think that's profiting off that advance, but it's covering your, I don't want the village members to be say, oh, you're giving an interest-free loan and it costs us $500 to do that.
no, deficit elimination plan is literally a one-page memo you're gonna send to treasury. It says, here's why we did it, here's what happened, here's what our plan is. In this case, we had a project that we knew we had millage revenue coming in July that we wanted to get out ahead on. We loaned it this amount of money to get the ball rolling. We paid it back out of that. We don't anticipate there being a future deficit. Yeah. Yeah, that's.
On that, Tim, did you get the email I sent a little bit earlier today? That it was titled, the subject was Wednesday meeting.
Plowing today.
I know you And in that, we did an email vote, the board,
Oh, yes, I got that.
and actually we have all 9 members approve both of those. So. Documented via email.
Is there any more discussion on the counting? No? Okay, how about, public comments, Tim, from before the meeting, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay,
And there's nobody else online.
okay, so now we're down to the permit update. George, you wanna elaborate on your permits?
Well, it's clear, we can put spoils anywhere we want, and,
By clear, you mean there's no deed restrictions?
there's no restrictions on any of it, based on the test results on the material.
That's from Birch Park.
This is for birch. And it'll likewise be the same for par, because par has no substance in it other than sand and sediment, so.
I got a question on that, George. You talked one time about they're gonna, possibility on lumping them together after a while, or?
Well, we don't know that. That's why we wanted this permit in our pocket first, which we do now have.
Or we go back for
And
another one, or are they gonna? try to
Now
find
we
two?
know that it takes roughly 90 days to get it. However, at this time of the season, this current winter season and this drawdown, there won't be time to do a par park this period. So I'm just gonna wait. I've got it already. It's in queue in draft. And submit that, say, in July. So that we will have it, you know, it has to go to public comment and everything too. We'll have it by the time we do the drawdown and we can jump right in. As long as we get a good drawdown. So,
May might be a better time to submit that.
That's what they.
May,
Yeah, well, you got three months for them to get it back, and we still have to get a bid proposal out
that's true.
and all
Good
that
point.
stuff, and that takes time, and you don't wanna.
And our windows of permit, once it's issued, is 5 years.
Correct. So it would still be good, but
Shouldn't be a big deal
no.
then. My thing would be sooner than later. That's what I'd be.
So we're gonna put that in approximately May. And then we're gonna have another one ready at that time also to put in September.
Well, and that's something the committee's gonna have to discuss. Because if we are going to, due to the hydraulic costs in the
Okay.
river, and if that was on our list to do second.
Yep.
Due to that expense in itself, that's more than 1 year's worth of millage income.
You only be able to do a small project next year's work.
Right,
Right.
so I felt it would be best to manage that money in order to hold off till 25
Okay.
and spend the big lump. Do maybe a couple small projects, Outlot D, Park, stuff like that. And save that remaining balance from the 24 millage included in, because we have to pay back, included in the 25 millage, and we'd have the money to do the river.
So you'll have a better idea what.
Now, the river can be done. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
When we get a proposal for this winter, we'll have a better idea of what we cost per square foot is at least for that project. Try to help budget going forward.
Exactly.
And
Now, the river will be done when the lake is up.
that's what I was gonna ask.
So the lake will be up. We don't have to worry about the drawdown piece of that.
Okay,
And then we'll know at that period, if it is that, estimate I got of 356, I believe is what it was. We'll know how much we have left in that year for that drawdown
gotcha.
at the end of 25. So trying to work in as much as we can, and maybe that's when we do the South Park boat launch area.
Tim, what does 2 years taxes give us? Approximately.
Based on our current taxable value, a full 3 mil levy for 2024 summer tax bill, I estimate at $310,000 to $312,000
For 24,
for this, the bill that's going out this summer.
Which would be the first.
and so
That's through
then,
when?
Those bills go out July 1. Due officially by September 15th. Last year I gave you guys a kind of a breakdown of here's where we're historically at the end of July, at the end of August, you know. And by, the due date in September, we're typically upper 80%, 88%, 87% at our, billing. I can say that might go down just a hair, the first year, because you're gonna have that first year, the 3 mil, mortgage companies might be a little bit late because that's gonna throw up people's escrows, that kind of thing. But you'll be looking at bringing forward a decent amount of money, and if you project you're gonna have 80% of 300 and, by 25, it should be closer to 320,000 is my guess. You could realistically look at doing the river in the fall of 25.
That's,
Right,
Sounds possible.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of working towards there.
Yep.
And then at that point, we'll know how much money the remaining balance is still coming in, another 20%, plus what we carry out this year. And we'll know that what our cost per foot or cubic yard, if we can afford to do our South Park.
Each project will be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Application, but it should be within reason.
So South Park, a lot of that material, Norm and I have been kind of figuring out where to put some of these spoils this round. But South Park, we can put some of that right in the park on the west end. Because it's a low area, it's spongy.
if we get the same test results.
Correct.
Yes, I think that one will be okay there.
Yeah.
I think we had one test point that was high in,
Lead?
lead, I believe.
Yeah, it's lead or copper, one. of the
Yeah,
two.
one of them is really weird. It's the only test I've gotten back with that, so it could have been where somebody lost their tackle box, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does your mate shooting? A couple of the test holes and back with little stuff in it.
When that test point just launch.
Well, they're in the bay, in the corner, where the cattails are back towards where the boats are parked. To the east.
Did we have any of the test sites or that samples that you sent in from Birch Park? I'm trying to get a handle on whether or not they averaged them. Like we talked about or not.
Yeah, I don't know if they averaged them or not,
Okay.
because, I took two more. I did 5, they wanted 7, so I did 2 more column and bottoms and base, and then 5 more for the PAH VOD. So if the 2 that were in the column I took had that in it already.
Okay.
I just told them to test for that when they tested those 2. So if they add them all together, I don't know. But none of it came back hazardous. One of them had, I think it was a little selenium, if I remember right, but.
Okay.
But it was at 910, and I think the cutoff is 6. But they said, okay. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on the plan. And we will carry out money this year. After we pay back the loan, we'll carry out money into 25 from the remaining amount of the millage. And then we'll know how much with the bid on the river at 356, we had to spend during the drawdown of 25 also.
So you could, we could potentially do it on a small project.
Yes. And South Park, I don't remember what our map said,
It was smaller than yardage.
yeah, it wasn't much, but once you get out there and you really start digging around and calculating your cubic yards, it is actually kind of a little different, because I didn't think Birch would be 9,000 either. When we started, which we thought about 6.
Yeah.
But when you start really laying it out and getting down to details, it will change a little bit on us, but, and that may make it a little more cost effective too. I mean, maybe it'll give us a better price too, with more yards.
Per yard.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our permit status, and now we have the task at hand to try to figure out an RFP for this whole project. And part of that was what we can store around that park nearby. And then the balance going to the lagoons, the way it sounds. I made some highlights on the sample RFP that Tim provided. I know Jordan did too. I don't know if anybody else looked at it over the last couple weeks, but I sent the one out I played with earlier today.
This is something having to do that, saying you can pass that around. That is the, I'll call it the official copy. I'm gonna leave it with Tim. Of where we can start putting spoils.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, there's all kinds of verbiage that this is a good starting point, and obviously it has the wrong project owner and locations. Those are the kind of things I started to do with it. I know there's a whole subsection in the back for insurance requirements that Tim probably, I'm sure you have a requirement for the village that you need to have. We can just take that whole exhibit out and place it with what the village needs.
Yeah.
And I didn't know for sure when I was trying to highlight things and make changes on all these names where they keep specifically naming an organization, what we really wanted, what we need to have legally on this document, whether it's committee, joint committee, village. I mean, the money's coming from the village, so I'm assuming it should probably have their name on it. But I wasn't 100% certain legally what you needed to have there.
Given the thoughts I had in dialogue, if the contractor wants to take the dirt with him, as far as that being an option or that being
You can put it in there, but these guys dig dirt for a living. I don't think they want any more of it. They generate a lot of it.
A lot of times.
So I mean. The big thing I think, George, is trying to come up with. How many yards we actually think we can store there. So that can be spelled out on the RFP that you can put
correct.
7,000 here, or 500 here, whatever that number is. So they know that they're gonna move it, they're gonna dump it, everything else has to go somewhere else, because that's gonna be their main.
Well, that's where I started that. I got my wheel out and I started wheeling all that off yesterday in the snow. Just to get an idea, a better idea, to be able to provide it tonight. Because when you look at an area, you don't really think about how many cubic yards it is.
Yeah, that drawing that I gave you,
Yeah.
I sent you from Todd.
You know, it's 200 feet long by, well, it's pretty deep, but what is it really? So you actually gotta measure it out. And it gives you a pretty close idea what we can use there, so.
Just, we all haven't seen it, but what was your calculations?
How big was the spot?
Well, between the shop and the, office, I believe it was, 320? Or 220?
280.
280, 280 cubic yards. And in those borrow pits, in Toreador Park, that's like 200.
220.
220. So there's, if it's 10 yards a load, starts trimming off those trips right there.
What the office here, that swale there. There was, what did you decide about the idea of a sled hill?
Well, actually, that was on the email I sent out, that I think if we build one across from the office, across the parking lot, towards the old storage area, it's already got a bank there. And if we can just start piling it there, I don't know. How do you build a sledding hill? You just keep dumping in the same place and pushing it up and.
You gotta compact it.
Hmm?
You're gonna need to compact it.
If the material will stand up,
Yeah,
Well, that's true.
and
might not be the material to use for sledding hill until you see what you've got. See how it sits in a couple of these spoil areas and then decide.
What did you and I both talked about the area just to the north of the road into the ramp, where it dives down to that ditch that runs through there. That elevation.
I think if we-
all up there,
We can put some in there, but we would have to slope that where that creek is, or whatever that runoff is.
Yep.
Over there, that would have to have a pretty gradual slope.
Well, you may have to pile some other kind of dirt there that's more stable to use as a berm, and then that moves back your Same.
Well, when you think about the terms that the state uses, upland, okay, that's upland. But the county may say, you can put it there, but you're putting up a permanent silt fence, soil erosion fence. Because of proximity to the lake, and that's creek that's in there. Or that, whatever that is, I guess just a runoff, but
That may be a question for, what was his name, at the DEQ, your new contact.
Soil.
Brian?
Brian, oh, at Rudolph, you mean?
Yeah, that may be a question for him. Is
No,
it
I think it'd be
possible?
the county.
Okay.
I think, I got a letter from the county that says, hey, we got it this week, said, we see you've applied for a permit, it's been approved, and you're doing a dredging. You're probably gonna need to get a soil erosion permit from us.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he will.
Since I called and left a message, I said, I know we are, I've already got it completed, so.
Is that Mill Creek down there part of the county drain commission's purview?
Well, it comes from,
It's not a drain of record.
right, it's not a drain, but it's the ditches, the road ditches, all feeds into there. There's a cross tube that goes to our side, that the north side or the west side feeds down, and it has the east side too, so it all combines, plus there's a spring in there someplace.
I think it's worth a phone call to him and ask him, and if you're filling out a permit, and say, hey, if we wanted to use some of this in our park to fill in, Steve, if you wanted to ask Steve that I'd like to put it here, he may be able to stop and say, I don't care, or absolutely not, at least we have an idea.
Okay,
Steve's the building inspector and he's inspecting the soil erosion and controlling it for the county.
what's his last name?
Kosner or Krosner,
Roetzer.
there you go.
Crocer?
Right, so
All right, yeah, I have his letter over in the office on my desk.
I got his number.
Well,
if
we
you need
did
it.
something already.
Well, actually, I called and I talked to his boss a couple weeks ago, so.
But
That'd
that
be better than Steve.
it'd be nice to figure that out, because that's so close.
Yeah.
To where they're pulling material, that's gotta be the cheapest location there is
Oh,
to
yeah.
store it. If we can, then we can do another calculation and find out that maybe is another 200 yards, 300 yards where it's gonna be.
I don't think it'd be that much. It's gonna be pretty thin.
There's a lot of grass there. I mean, 4 inches over a whole surface area takes up a lot of cubic feet.
You know?
If it's 4 inches up by the driveway and it gets down to 10 inches down there, it'll add up faster than you think it will. It's not gonna solve all of our issues, but
No, it's probably gonna be about 18 inches towards the creek side,
Right.
on the north side. But it's gonna be thin.
I
on
don't
the
know how
dry
far you
side.
wanna potentially take that. I know there's people that store their boats after you get past the cattails.
Yeah.
I don't think they want it down there, but so you have to start grading it back down again, so it's all mobile. And I don't, the other park, what's the other park on the north side of Bonita Bay?
Tervel.
There's nothing, there's nowhere to put it there, I don't think.
No, it's just the flat land there, so.
Did you have any luck at trying to talk to the buyers or anybody last week?
I looked them up online, the number was no good.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, if Tim has access to, his name's Don. Donald.
Nexus.
I was just gonna drive back into the new house and see if he's there, but,
No, different one,
oh,
That's, yeah, it's a different one.
different one.
well, the guy that put the drive in behind the house there at the T
Mhm.
is the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think they're the field owner. I think that's a different offshoot of the family.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, and from my conversations with him, it's, they're not one and the same.
Okay.
He was concerned that people were trespassing to get to the field because they were going through the yellow gate over
Right.
your guys' property. To
Right.
get to the field over his property, and he wasn't too kosher with that when it was going on. So,
I mean, maybe it's a perfect thing for the farmer. It's, then,
Well, we have an option to call, Chafee too. Now, he didn't want the material from the river. He said there's fish hooks and fish line and all this, but maybe he'd want part of Birch Bay. But I was also thinking about the trucking. Is that any closer than the DPW?
well, like Tim said, if you went to the campground, took a section of your fence down, you're right into that field,
Mhm.
you're not going anywhere. You're right off your property on his property, you're not involving anybody else.
Well, that's true.
I'm not saying maybe he has absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. Or maybe he says, yeah, you can put it here, and you know, pay me $3 a yard or something, maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. But it's worth trying, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Mhm.
All they can do is say no. And if they say yes, and then that might solve a lot.
So how much do you want?
I think it may be a good idea to take a little Ziploc bag of that to someone like Morgan's and say, you know, they'll give you an analyzation of whether it's suitable for that. You know, maybe it has the right chemicals and the right organic matter in it that they might really want it. Or maybe it's something they have to amend so many times they don't want to do with it.
Yeah.
That's probably a question that you'd want to know when they ask them that question.
Well, a lot of that from the samples we've taken is coming back right around between 80-85% sand. So the other remaining, the rest of it's organic.
Yes. So I'm
So,
talking nitrogen, magnesium, all that, I mean, they don't, that stuff all matters to them. If it's not right, they gotta dump a bunch of stuff on it to fix it, they don't want it. Okay, so we need to find out if we can store it in that park, and if we can, how much we can. So we can change this document to say, okay, now we're up to 800 cubic yards in store on our property,
Local,
whatever,
right here.
600, whatever it is.
right here.
And then the rest has to go somewhere else. And I know we had a couple of questions at the meet and greet from some of the contractors. They would like, obviously, to see the pit and then say, okay, how are we entering and exiting? And let's say that contractor A gets that contract this year. They put their spoil over there. Somebody else gets it next year, or maybe they get it again, whatever, but there's gotta be some way to leave that pile and not just randomly put things. There has to be some kind of accountability on how that gets left.
Organized piling, kind of, you mean?
Dumping, yeah.
Dump-
Yeah, so the next guy doesn't have to come in and move all of that stuff to do his job. I mean, if it's just left, I mean, that could be accountable. We have to tell them, okay, this is this pit, and this is a picture of it. We should shade in an area and say, by our calculation, it should fit here, this many cubic yards. You're gonna start in the corner, and you're gonna work your way back to the egress area. So that when we go to use this property again, it's not a disaster area. So we have to try to I think a map makes the most sense, a shaded map. But that, we have to put that into this document, so. We probably want to either as a group or, you know, have a dozen of us, whatever, go there and look at it and talk to Tim and find out. Where it's the village's property, where they want to start putting material first.
Furthest back, right, and then move forward.
That's my decision, but that makes sense, but we have to have that spelled out to get a proper number, because it's just gonna be a constant stream of RFIs saying, okay, now what? You sit over here, I went inside the gate 10 feet, and dropped it off, and I left, and now you're mad at me, so we have, you gotta, it has to be
You
spelled
have
out.
to
black
be
and white.
detailed, yeah, okay.
So, I don't know, Tim, if you, I mean, obviously not, this is probably not a good week for you otherwise, but if you have a time that you'd like to try to look at it, or if you wanna look at it, you know, by yourself and your back goes or whatever to start coming up with ideas for that storage location. And I don't know if we have to involve the county for that property, since it's already burned up around the edges. I would think you need a soil erosion pit to fill in a hole.
I think probably more than 500 feet from the river too.
The river has to have some.
I think it might be weird though, it might be closer to the river.
Where you think you are. Back in that corner.
Right,
Didn't we were asked that question by the state, weren't we?
What's that?
About the pits, if we were to put the deposits of spoils in those pits, the proximity to the river as it winds around.
That was one that came up in discussion, yeah.
And I don't remember what
The closest spot right there to the corner.
You want to put some behind your DPW building too?
That's what I thought you were asking, is that's where you wanted it.
No, I mean, if we go back to the
He's talking about
Storage
that
lagoon.
pond.
storage lagoons,
The lagoons?
those are a ways from the river.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, never seen.
But I know you also talked before about sledding hills for the village, too.
1,000
You want to pile of dirt behind the DPW building? Yeah, it's over 1,000 feet.
Well, we're a long way from the river there.
again, my own feeling is you wanna
Nice for the lagoon.
save the lagoon property for the time when you gotta
Right.
landfill it, but
And I don't know that anybody's doing calculations on that lagoon to find out what it holds.
1,000 foot?
the rough calculations I did based on size, all three of those collectively were gonna hold about 180,000 cubic yards.
That's pretty confidential.
Yeah.
Could have been fast.
That should just about.
You're talking
cover it.
250, you're talking 180,000.
Yeah, we just fill in this little bitty corner.
How big is the dimensions on what we approved for Birch?
It's just over 9,000.
9,300,
Dimensions, like 200 by,
400 by 300.
426.
Yeah.
Wide and doesn't say how long. Oh, wait a minute. No, this doesn't either.
That ditch that runs through there, Tim doesn't. Does it flow? I mean, it kind of does flow water, so you probably could be 50 feet away from that too, correct?
well, it's not a drain of record.
Oh, here it is, 300 feet wide by 600 feet
Sometimes that can
long.
be a ditch.
3 by 6.
And that's generous. Because the part going back in the lake's only 200 feet. Or, yeah,
It's 200 feet by what, 150 wide?
yeah, if that 120,
120, okay. Because it was 2 sections, I did that one,
Yep.
2 sections.
yep, you did. First section is 400 by 300, and then the second section is 200 by 120.
And that second section was 36 inches deep.
Yep, 36
First-
inches deep, and
Couldn't put it all in.
the other one was 24 inches deep. 933.
That can't be right.
34.
That can't be right.
You can measure these are on Google Earth then.
I was doing the quantities.
Well, see, Tim, that also, you're also looking at that. Part of it's, 3 feet deep,
Yeah.
cubic yard, and part's only at 24.
Mhm.
So square foot wise.
Really see how across the fall.
Square foot wise.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be a little.
Surface.
Yeah.
Tim, how big are you got it right now? Well, there, I'm done.
I had it at 400 by 300 right there.
200 by 300,
400 by 300 is what I had it at.
200 by 300 by 4 foot high is 9,000 yards,
All right.
plus some fluff,
Mhm.
of course.
Yeah.
Because it's 24 inches deep in one spot.
So 200 by 300, what's that, acre and a half?
He was 300, 400 on that.
Yeah, on an acre, so if he's 300 by 400, that's 2 of those.
Is that your mark right there, 400 by 300?
Yeah, that's the one I was just listening to, I haven't wrote that down, but from the calculation, that I got the 200 by 300, oh, 4 foot material.
There.
Yeah, 200 by 300 by 4.
And then we should increase it by 25%. Generally for fluff,
Mhm.
but who knows what this is gonna do, it could be liquid, and it might not fluff.
Yeah.
It could be, it's a to be seen thing, really, as to how it stacks and how it holds and how it ends up.
Mhm.
And I think once we get that under our belt once or twice, we'll start learning what we
Yeah.
really need.
I know the material in front of my house was like oatmeal consistency, and then when it's dried out for a couple months, I can walk on it.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
And
Packs, yeah.
so it might have started this thick, and when it dried, it was.
When it dewaters, it compresses to about 50%.
So is that area behind the DPW something you would talk to the council about, or no?
Yeah. Yeah, if we need it. Cause we'd always talked about using that as potential like transfer site, you know,
You got a lot of acreage there.
yeah, the whole parcel's 15, you know, the back is like 9.
Behind DPW building.
Location wise, it's not a lot different. Why for Montero, I wouldn't think for trucking would be much different than it would be to take it there than it would be the lagoons. Other than the fact that we know now that we would have what we're taking on now with not deed restricted, so Tim would still have the availability to do whatever with that property.
You know, my concern on the lagoons this time of year is getting to them. If you ever want shows like swamp loggers or that kind of stuff, that's what your trucks are gonna be running into trying to get back there in the winter.
The
Is
road
this,
is,
is
the
this a
road,
dirt 2 track is all. it
yeah,
is.
but that road's pretty hard. I mean, that road on the way in there's solid from my memory. I mean, the pits themselves may not be at the bottom of the pit like
Yeah,
that.
there's reeds in some of those pits, isn't there?
Yeah. But once you get on the property, all the way out to the lagoons is where I think we're gonna run into potential in the winter, a problem if it's wet.
I don't remember that having too much.
Might run into a problem on a baseline road if it's wet.
I think baseline might be worse if they trade
Yeah.
back.
We put a bunch of asphalt in the baseline and put a bunch of gravel on top of it, it actually holds it pretty decent.
A little raft to keep her floating.
Yeah, there's a lot of asphalt from Birdie Drive that's under baseline road. It's cheaper than trucking it.
We needed it. Okay, would that be like a meeting agenda for your next council meeting?
Potentially, I don't know.
Those big old trucks don't get on the truck.
If we're gonna have the big peninsula, we probably should, at least. See what it's really gonna do.
Tim, you know what that bridge on Coldwater Road's rated for weight wise?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
I think it's just 50 ton.
It's less than that now, I
Is
think.
it?
Yeah, they dropped
I
it
thought
again.
you could run a full truck across it, couldn't you, Bill? Cause it was class A, wasn't it class A?
You can't take a lead across it.
No,
Lead is too heavy, too short.
and fun, they're trying to replace it.
I know, that's gonna be a terrible project for people on the other side of the lake.
Yeah, they've tried to get funding this last year and didn't get it.
In other words, we may have trucks we can't move.
Well, there could be potential too.
We do this one, let's get it done.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah. I got rebuilt a little bit. I remember
But you're gonna work on, George, you're gonna work on getting us an answer hopefully from the county about what he thinks we can put in that park.
Yeah, he'll probably have to come out and look at it. Which is, now we
All
have
the time anyway.
snow down, you know, it's hard
A
to
little tougher to see.
visualize it, but
See what, we put a call into him, see what he can do, and then at least between those three locations, it'll give us an idea of what we can store on that side of the lake. And then whether we go to the lagoon, then can get approval from the DPW, it's still, I mean, there's a quarter mile difference between the two sites.
well, does anybody here on this committee, can you think of any other place we can top dress?
Well, Bill mentioned that park
Location.
over off of El Camino, but I don't know if he can get in there. That valley or wherever it's back in there.
The hole back off Sierra Marina in that cul-de-sac. Whose property is that?
Village.
The village owns
No,
all of this.
We own all that, but the park is yours.
Yes,
That's
parks
the
are.
deep, that's the deep spot.
That's a big
Yeah,
ravine.
there's a hole back
Owners
there.
are Before we start doing that.
What's that?
To get to that, you have to clear trees.
No,
You can get to it off that cul-de-sac.
So are you disturbing homeowners that live there by?
You're gonna disturb homeowners and
Yes.
Yeah, you will.
there's not,
We'll keep you.
You know one homeowner.
It's just across the street, Tracy.
the only place there's not a unbelievable amount of trees is right here,
Yeah, I was thinking we could back up right there.
you know, but all of this is dense trees through here.
Yeah,
You know,
isn't there a drainage easement in there?
drainage easement is right
no,
here.
it's so down.
But it does, so it doesn't flow from, Drew down across.
So, I don't think it goes through the park.
Yeah.
We could level your entire backyard.
Backyard's plenty level, but thanks.
Is that a park you're mowing now, George?
No, we don't mow that. That's pretty rough terrain down in there.
Maybe I'm just thinking of the park property, not an easement.
We have to figure out what kind of odors that spoils gives us too, before we start dropping. it.
Shouldn't have any more orders than you spelled all fall and exposed all winter. Since October.
What we got there?
It's two different sheets and it split it right there.
Well, that's the. What is that right there? You might be right, Miss Tracy. That is a public utility easement that is 50 feet wide right
I
there.
got one of those, my lake, or my lakeside.
Public utility and drainage easement.
Public utility can dig through 4 more feet of material, drainage easement can.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an easement through there.
Well, not necessarily have to be shot, so it did drain, that's all.
Well, the village property north of that, there's some dips and valleys in there.
And those lots you're talking
Mm-hmm. Those are lots.
Could you, or would you be able to come off of, to build if you wanted to go off that north side, could you put a driveway off of Drew? Would you want to? Could you?
There's already one there.
There's already one.
That would support that truck?
Yeah, there,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, island there.
right there where no basement used to be.
Yeah, that's right.
There's an old hand dug basement from about
Right there's the old
1920
basement,
in there.
right there.
Yeah,
Can you put the topo on that with contours?
Is that even on the GIS?
they at one time thought about putting a sledding
I think
hill
I've seen
there.
that on there.
It still might be on a slope,
No.
and then have to be rezoned as recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
That might just be on ours, they
Yeah.
had 4-foot contours.
Maybe I can pull it up on my phone. It's pretty flat over there.
Mhm.
Here is
That
flat.
is- Right there it is, like a
Yeah.
big table. Further west it isn't.
Yeah, and you can see it through here is that, you know, there's an old dry creek bed basically that runs through here.
We have earlier topo maps that show what that was.
This part is pretty well flat. This is where it starts to get, you know.
You didn't have talks with that property in any of your future development plans?
Oh, yeah.
That's what the cemetery was gonna be. And the village office at one time.
Oh, scratch.
It died for people that wanted it.
What's that?
Cemetery.
They went somewhere else?
No, I mean, they passed on.
What?
Appropriate.
They didn't get planted where they wanted it.
Well, I mean, it was just.
We talked one time about maybe a sliding hill in, Marietta Park. There's quite a bit of space there, right?
It's on land not being used. Where the ballpark used to be.
Not that one. It's on this side of the river.
It's on the right side of it.
I don't think we're gonna have a problem losing the dirt, if we get a little creative.
You know, the comment I would throw out for our LIPOA friends to think about is if you were to dump the spoils from Birch Bay and Marietta Park when you haven't started doing the river, how is that going to look to the people who are in that neighborhood?
Yeah, you gotta switch.
Well, they're gonna drive by Birch every day and see that, and the people that are, I'll say, highly interested in the dredging in its entirety, but more so the river. You know, I told them it's gonna come, because now we're getting a millage. It's voted, you passed, you know, we know you want it, it's gonna come, and it's early on in the plan. So be patient. We wanna get our feet wet with the state and everything else.
We definitely have to be communicating.
So, I don't think we get
I
too
see
much
what your
pushback.
ethics are.
Cause they're like, well, do we know where we're putting the dirt from the river? What if we needed to use that for the river?
But the river was going to Lucky's.
George,
That was most of them.
call Hubshers,
Upshurs?
yeah. Ask them about that pit sitting up here off of Drew.
Like Drew and Rollin, they have that big,
Mhm.
just a huge hole there.
That's close.
Yeah.
That's closer to what?
And it's below the, almost below the river level where it ain't gonna go to the river.
You probably wouldn't even notice 9,000 yards in that hole.
Are they still in Golden State down there?
Well, they got it.
They have a
How do you spell Upshur?
Hubscher, I think.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Hubscher. There's your C. Chuck, it should be Chuck. Is Chuck still alive? Chuck's the younger one of
It'll
the.
tell you on Petro, is it?
Yeah, it might just be.
It says Upshur and Sons, I think.
Yeah, it's just gonna be their company.
I can tell you, well,
It's gotta be Chuck's. I haven't heard if he.
Upsher's Resources LLC.
Gotta be.
Hubsher?
Pub HUBSCHER.
Jack's fans.
Pubs share.
I thought there was a house there.
They can't be bumping seven.
Back up in that corner, so they might be using that for somebody.
No, okay.
There is.
I didn't think you were that old.
Yeah, the house is up here.
One back on the riverside,
That's a big issue.
northwest corner.
Something there.
That was the old, horse ranch. That one.
John Charles and Janice.
that's the old.
That's Pennington's.
I knew it originated, but
Okay.
Yeah, they still have their office in town and that.
So we got here.
Like,
By the acres, by the-
So you're gonna try to get, you're gonna try to get,
I'm sorry?
you're gonna try to get a hold of Huckers and see.
Yeah, old Doris or something, Doris.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna get a hold of Butler too. Is it Butler? Is that
Butler.
it? Butler? Get a hold of Butler, the county and Upshur's
Okay, so we kind of need to know
yesterday.
yesterday if people were interested or entertaining
Right.
the thought of it, because that changes our RFP considerable. We
It
still
kind of
have,
looks like we should continue looking for spots.
I can reach out to Beitler. I have his contact info.
Oh, do you?
I
Okay.
do. Cause he had to pull a driveway permit from us.
That's true. Yeah.
so do we want to have a discussion on,
Well, what? Leave, when you're writing this RFP, leave some blanks in it. You know how,
anything yellow can, you can change anything, it's just the word,
Yeah.
the word document.
I honestly think the only part we really need direction out for the RFP is where the dirt's going. The rest of it's pretty self-explanatory, because
But
we're not
you're,
gonna dictate to the contractor how they do it. We're gonna,
you're gonna go through this and change all the language you want for.
Yeah.
their
yeah,
section.
we just literally need to know where it's going.
Okay,
All
so
right,
if you're gonna go through here and change all the
I can do
names
that.
to the proper village or where, you know, all that
Yeah.
stuff and legalities of it, that's,
Disposal is the thing that we wanna make sure we,
Yeah,
so for the disposal.
the parameters of.
They'll come down, what we find out.
and you know, on the council's then, I can prime them that, about the interfund loan, but we can't approve it until we know how much we gotta give.
Yeah.
You know,
Are we still looking at, and I heard earlier, like a sledding hill?
it's been talked about.
My,
it's not gonna be huge, but it'll be
I wouldn't,
something.
I know the
but
village
since-
talked about it also.
since you'd be using, the soil from the lake through a project that's paid for by taxpayers, would that not make that public
it depends on
flood hill then?
potentially.
In which case you could not put it in your park unless you want. to let
Yeah,
the
that's a fair
public in.
point, Bob.
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't
That's
think
a
of it
good
like
point.
that, Bob.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry, the two of you were, I didn't hear you.
no, that's a good point.
Village would have to sell the spoils to the LIPOA for $1.
That'd probably be the thing to do. You're still gonna have, half the taxpayers in the village come up and say, hey, I paid for that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't use
Well,
it.
we could put it over in the county park. And that's public.
With
Yeah. that would be
their
enough.
permission.
And just, I want us to be aware that the public is gonna think, wait, I can use this.
So with that same thought, Bob, I know the village talked about setting hills, it was on your questionnaires or
Yeah.
whatever. If that went behind the DPW, is that not something that can be used, or is it, you don't want that public back there?
It's potentially used back there.
Then I think it would have to sit and dry out for a couple of years before you can start
Yeah,
sheeting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't change ownership, it's already owned by the village.
yeah.
Right, but I mean, that, to Bob's point, that's a public property.
We've got enough yards there, we could make it like Mount Holly, and we'd actually have a lot instead of Mount Pleasant.
Get a snow machine and.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know how big that is. It's gonna be, but I mean, that's.
It might be trash.
It's a ski hill.
Oh, Holly is trash.
Yeah, that's what I thought, it was man-made.
I think most of that comes from Canada too. The track.
Yeah.
How we did?
It did.
Okay. So is that something you wanna broach with your council?
Yeah. Yeah, I should have thought too, if we just go over and dump it over here too.
You can maybe sled hill there, but I don't know if you want to go back in the woods.
Yeah, and I don't think the sled hill behind DPW is a great location, because you're gonna be driving back.
Have to park somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the parking's not a big deal, we can do that right over here, I just. Something like that, I think you'd wanna have a little bit more visible.
You have a lot of stuff around that DPW.
We do.
But what if you,
Keep playing with.
over the course of this project, you're filling in your lagoons.
Hmm.
And if the village doesn't really have a use for that property,
Yeah,
that you could turn it into more of a village park, I guess, per se. If you
Recreation.
had a sled hill there, you could put playground stuff, well, whatever, whatever you want to use it for. Bike path around the perimeter of that thing, walking path.
Is there any feel for what that property behind the DPW is gonna be used for one day, or is it just kind of a dead issue?
the only thing we looked at down there was the dog park. You know, if we're gonna do a dog park, that's kind of a perfect location, because it's not by anybody's house.
But so is the lagoon property. You could have a sled hill and then eventually put in a fence there, wouldn't happen with part of this project, but
Yeah.
if the spoils were able to be used for a sledding hill,
Mhm.
that's a start.
You know, for us, when we're doing it, part of the deal is, you know, if we're gonna go after grant money, you have to have certain like water and that kind of stuff, so we were gonna be able to bring that right from the building as opposed to drilling a new well and that kind of stuff too. So there's cost savings to do it there.
So if you put in a little recreation park, you have to have a bathhouse, really?
Well, it depends on if we're getting grant money from the state to do it. We're going after Natural Resources Trust Fund money. There are accessibility, ADA requirements, those type of things that come into play. As opposed to us just doing it. I mean, we have to do ADA obviously, but.
I'm batting average in the state, last couple of years, and I agree.
And better than the state.
You can't do the portable outhouses like us.
Then you got different issues, you got monitoring, you got cleaning, you got.
Once a week cleaning,
That'd be, I mean, I'm not on the village council, but that'd be my only worry about having people back there using that is, it's not watched.
There's that result, actually.
This little Goose property can hold 120,000 acre or cubic yards in the hole, and that just makes them level.
Right.
So I mean, we're not pulling enough.
Yeah, level but elevated, right?
No,
To the level, the burn.
well, the berm, yeah. the
It's
berm.
still gotta make sense in that property in the future. I mean, if you fill holes in, that's one thing, you start putting piles of dirt everywhere that.
Yeah, it'll make the property
There's
dead.
a huge open field though, I mean, you could lose.
You can put you can make it 4 inches
6
deep across
inches,
the whole thing,
bulldoze
just
the
level
whole
it out.
thing and-
Right.
If you had a DPW, you could put a foot in there, and it wouldn't hurt anything.
No, the high DPW is low too. I mean, it
Yeah,
it
we
could
could use it.
legitimately use,
Yeah,
you know,
foot.
I'd even say 2 wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I would do that. 8 foot, 8
As long as it's tapered for drainage, it wouldn't be a big deal.
If you put it in either one of those locations, let's say on the drive rather than in your hole,
Mhm.
and you graded it out, do you have requirements to mediate that area since you're not within a flood zone, not near a water source? If you let nature take its course.
I don't know. It's not a wetland.
Can you drive back there most of the year, or do you just got a site?
It's all sand.
I mean, I'm talking about with trains.
That was my,
Oh.
that was my playground for 12 years.
They're gonna have the equipment, they're gonna improve that road if they need to improve it, that's gonna be part of their, that's gonna be part of their bid. If they bring in two trains worth of gravel to improve that road, that's not really, we're talking about $1,000 on a huge project. so-
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
We'll be paying for it. It'll
Oh,
just be
yeah,
part of
yeah.
the deal.
yeah,
Yeah, pay for it now, wouldn't it?
but it stays, but that stays with us.
That's what they'll stay with us.
But I just think that makes more sense than trying to find somebody back there, makes no sense there.
Are we gonna offer that option to have people pick up dirt? if they're-
So do you talk about the, which bridge are they gonna redo? The one on Coldwater? Okay, what's the one east of there?
School road?
Yeah, that's gotta even have less of a.
No, that's actually better. All right,
So they could still get
Yeah.
spoils there then,
Go around the backside, yeah.
just go around the back.
Yeah, just exactly what happened when we had the detour. When there's-
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Right.
it was
We built that one twice.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah, canoe complained.
Yeah, it was too low.
It wasn't too long.
I know.
But before you had the truss bridge.
Yep.
So you go under there and you thought you had enough head where you had to duck every 5 or 8 feet, whatever the beams were. So when I put a solid concrete deck on there, there was no place you could lift the head up. It was actually a couple inches higher. But they took the deck off again and added the, what are they? What are 16 inches top of the abutments, put the deck back on.
Okay.
Oh, you know how that costs.
So, yeah, it's doing it twice.
Time and material.
So I think, between the pits
For a canoe.
and potentially adding, 6, 8, 10 inches of soil across the open grass areas that hold everything we need, and then some.
Correct.
Especially if you end up, if we're able to pump the river to Lucky's property.
Yeah.
That takes that out of the total. That's not been set in stone yet, but maybe if he doesn't want it, maybe that can go to Upshurst. I mean, they go right up the river and.
Jump out the right side instead of the
Across
left.
the road, right?
Yeah.
This is, you know, a little sideline. I don't know if any of you have been up to the airport in Clare, but they're dredging the lake in Clare. And they're putting it in a pit they dug at the airport.
What do you do with that dirt? They dug out.
They pushed it up and made a berm.
Oh, so
Oh,
they
and
made.
this is huge. It's 1,000 feet long easy.
Yeah.
And they got a silt fence around the whole thing. They got the pipe in, Savin's doing the work.
Yeah, Simon said he was doing it.
It's, yeah, if you're up that way, you should just fly, drive by and take a look.
He actually invited us, he invited us to come and see it.
Is that a Shamrock?
Little quick
I
meeting.
don't know.
Recommend it go.
It's quite a,
I don't know.
quite a pile, quite a
What,
whole.
what lake is that? Sure.
Shamrock.
Is it Shamrock? Okay.
That's right in town.
It's the bid doc you got.
Is that, well, I was thinking that's out of
It
Shamrock.
is our good document.
Restore.
Okay, well, if Tim's gonna make the changes.
Yeah.
To the document to make it legal,
Mhm.
and make changes to the insurance he needs. You're gonna check with
Upshur.
Upshur's,
He's gonna check with
you're
Butler.
gonna check
Check
with
with
Butler,
Butler.
and then,
I'm also gonna try and reach out to Maury about the lagoon property, because they do have a deed restriction on tree removal. They have the right to harvest trees on the property still.
when they got there, is that stand of fine, that's probably worth it, anything else is
Yeah,
just problem.
yeah, honestly, I would be interested to see if they would be interested in some other agreements on that property, but neither here nor there at the moment. I'm also gonna reach out to the road commission and get the bona fide weight for that bridge,
Okay,
because that's, I think, actually gonna be pretty relevant.
There's a sign on Coldwater Road.
what if,
Yeah, there
what
is.
if you just came down Drew and went across Coldwater and took the dirt roads the rest of the way?
Good.
The other bridge has been redone, right, build one up.
That's the one we were
That's what we're talking about. That's relatively new.
School road,
School road's fine.
yeah.
So if we trucked down Drew Road,
And went
across
straight
Coldwater
across.
and went down
Yeah.
to School Road, we wouldn't have any restrictions.
Shouldn't.
Even if they're working on that bridge, other than that, guess the whole world's gonna go that way at that point.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolute disaster.
Cross the bridge that way.
Depending on the frequency of loads, it might be a better idea anyway.
Like I said, it'll be a question for the contractors, I mean, they're gonna know, they're gonna know what the load limits are, they're gonna know the best route for them. They may wanna go that way,
Stay off the main drag, yeah.
if they gotta go and regrade a kind of gravel road, that's gotta be a hell of a lot cheaper than fixing asphalt.
Or cleaning the asphalt off every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been-
You're not sweeping dirt road, it's already dirt.
What about, fixing the boat launch this year? Is that something that we're gonna try to entertain?
With the dredging.
I think, you wanna put that,
No, this year.
you wanna put that on the RFP was for the contractors, you wanna just have your guys show up?
This year.
No, I think we need to have a contractor do it.
Okay.
Cause that's what we talked about, we just cut it and drop it, or we'll clean out underneath it. Like you said, maybe there's equipment, you can move it out of the way and then push it back to
Well,
lower
if they're gonna
that.
use that same area, to take trucks in, they're probably gonna destroy that entire ramp anyway. If they're gonna use that for ingress and egress, they're gonna.
That
destroy
would be, I would think that'd be the best place to do it, yes.
So they might just record the whole damn thing. I mean, you're gonna take 100 trucks out of there full of dirt,
Yeah, that'll wreck it.
they're gonna destroy that concrete.
Mhm.
So we should
How
have that,
big is it?
4 inches, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
It'll get wrecked.
It'll probably be down to the level in which we want it, just in pieces.
Yeah,
It's a gravel.
it's compacted.
It will be a nice base for a new boat ready to put four
It'd be a
on.
great base for a new boat.
So that'll have to be written into the RFP then.
Yes.
That'll be part of it.
Yep.
And I'm sure they probably already saw that in their head when they were looking at it, that was the.
Well, I mean, that's, honestly, that's the best way in and out. Otherwise, you're making a ramp out of a shoreline.
That small, of course, nothing for
Well,
that.
it depends on the reach on your rigs too, you might not have to go all the way down in there.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they're gonna bulldoze it all to one spot and.
That's what one of them said, he said,
Yeah.
he said, I'd do this right now, I'd put a bulldozer out there and just start pushing it right over here.
What I do,
Load it from the pile.
yeah, I would push it all to a pile. get all out, off the lake bottom as quick as I could, pile it up, and then I can get the pile throughout the winter.
Mhm.
But the lake bottom is the part that's the time sensitive one, because that's gonna be,
Right.
Well,
Starts
it's
to
also,
back in again.
yeah.
Freeze.
it's also unknown, because the doggone lake moved by.
Okay. And you're gonna check with the county also, we got the county and helpers.
We're back down to 6 now.
Okay, we talked about ramp, we talked about some locations.
Freeze up.
Anybody else have anything they wanna add or talk about on the RFP that they should be in there, or should be excluded from there?
Tim, when you get it changed, can you send it to us?
Don't know public comments, Tim? No one jumped online?
Fernando's online, but. You're gonna be bored.
South America?
Is Fernando out of town?
I think he's in Chile or something, isn't
Well, you can send us warm weather.
he? When do we wanna try to meet again after we do this legwork? And I know we're trying to get this project possibly pushed this winter. I don't think we wanna wait a month again for the next meeting, do we?
No,
No.
would it be best to have a meeting after you have your meeting with council, Tim?
You know, we're meeting next Wednesday, the 17th.
So we could have it the 24th, is that what you're saying? Or the 31st?
24th is fine.
All right,
I'm out of town the 31st, so if you're meeting then, I won't be here.
so the 24th,
Yep.
is that a Wednesday?
Yep,
And
You're gonna be here when?
I won't be here the 31st, so.
The 24th at 4?
Yeah, we can definitely have a RFP.
so the RFP will be done, we'll have answers from council.
Well, the RFP can't get done until we find out where the dirt's gonna go.
Yeah.
And he-
Well, right,
Tim
right.
can then be
Yes.
added in,
I can get all of it done but that.
That's what.
so if we can get some of those things answered in between, then maybe.
I will. We'll have
RFP.
We'll have
And
answers.
then, once the RFP is done, Tim, you have put it out in the paper or something, like give notice to different people, or just put it, send it to the contractors you know of, and post it in the Morning Sun website, your
I
website.
will look back because remember, you guys adopted your own policy earlier this year about bidding and purchasing and that kind of stuff, so whatever we do, we're gonna need to follow that policy.
Well, I think the only agreement I think we had was, we obviously wanted multiple numbers, so it
Yeah.
was 2 or 3, whatever
Yeah.
it was.
But it is open bid,
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
so y'all come if you want.
Has to be open.
no, and I think
Yeah.
that was, I just didn't know how long,
we can do it however long you want, I don't think there's a certain time frame. I think it was the number of proposals you wanted me to try and solicit.
most of the bids that I'm least involved, or at least that I'm involved in, a 10-day period is usually enough. If you have a pre-bid walkthrough, then you get 10 days to get a number back, I think
Is
it's.
it gonna be able to get somebody in there before water comes up in the spring?
That's what the contractors.
You're also dealing with frost too. so.
If it gets cold
Frost all on the road too.
and that.
Well, if the person that gets it takes a dozer in there, it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
Well, if they get all the dirt pushed up to the way they
Right,
want it,
that's
they
what I
can
mean.
finish the project up in March, or you know,
Right.
whatever.
That's,
If they can push dirt, they can push snow.
I think it's gonna turn warm after Valentine's Day, so what the climate models are showing.
I agree.
Yeah. Like you can look at, like, they were predicting this cold snap before Christmas and the storm, this one that just passed, like you can see it on the models before Christmas. And it's
The only
only warm
challenge
up
would
after
be the
Valentine's Day. It's gonna go back to that 40-degree.
I love, I'm sure,
I mean, it's gotta be done,
yeah,
because
yeah, I think it'd be.
if there's 2 feet of snow on there.
So the 24th, we're gonna try to finish up the RFP, hopefully have all our answers back from everybody we're gonna try to reach out to.
Round figures, what were we talking about? The cubic yards, we figured.
9,300.
Oh,
no.
$13 a yard?
No, for moving, for doing the project, what do we
I
say?
think we had 15 or something, I wanna say.
$13.
I was just curious, for so many numbers.
Well, when we,
And I know,
That's a guess.
that's a guess.
when we talked about not South Park, Peninsula, I'll call it Peninsula Drive, right, the big sand hole. Right? And you, Reggie said that you knew some people who may do it for 11 or 13.
The bigger the yardage, you get the lower.
You
the-
know,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, price.
Those numbers that we got, those rough numbers for
Arbitrary.
the peninsula part,
Yeah,
that's, that's a lot of yardage.
The smaller the project, the better your repairs are. We got a lot involved in getting that project started and cleaned up and put away for a small, one week job. Your price per square foot could be 40-50% more easy.
I mean, do we have any guess at what we're gonna look at cubic yard price on this?
I think we had our budget was somewhere between 13 and 18, so we settled in around 15, I thought was what we had.
I'd be willing to bet that if we can get to haul the Beitlers, it's probably gonna be, we're gonna have half of the amount in trucking.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
Easy.
way cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Mally's could run rock trucks,
yeah,
just across the street, back to the campground and dump it.
yeah,
It would be way cheaper.
See, that was my thing is if you end up finding somebody and let's say the buyer does want some or all of it. Even if he wanted to charge you something for a cubic yard, it'd be worth it. It'd be worth it.
yeah.
Because like even when frost laws are on, they can haul.
There's no problem.
So it'd be
Yeah,
cost-
there's no, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
go ahead and cross Queensway, go ahead.
So I guess we have that conversation, don't give away the farm, but
Right.
So we're looking at about 140,000 then. If it's at the $50 thing.
Okay, that comes out of your cooking jar.
Yeah. You know, that's why I wanted to know.
yeah, see, I figure best case, probably be 120,
Yeah.
But it depends on where it falls above that. So,
Well, 15, I just figured 15 is about 140 grand.
that's where it's gotta go.
Yep.
Okay, do we have any other discussions? Anybody wants to? Questions or concerns about the project they wanna talk about? No one? Okay, our next meeting is set for the 24th, 4:00. It is 5:15 on 10. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.